Hello and welcome to Jessie Bear Book Club, the only book club where we don't always talk about books. Today we are reviewing Son of Perdition by Brandon Blackmore. I have never read an FLDS man's book before, so when this came out I was pretty excited. I know there are other books out there written by FLDS men, but they tend to be a little too graphic in nature, if you know what I mean. The standard FLDS book name changes apply in this book, but because I have read so many of these books and done so much research, I am pretty sure Brandon Blackmore and Rebecca Musser are cousins through their mothers, but I could be wrong. Brandon has a pretty nice childhood, even though he's in a family with loads of kids. Everyone seems to look out for each other and they seem to be very close. When he gets his pony called Potato, who's stubborn, I thought that was really cute, and if I ever get another pony, I am going to name it Potato. His uncle is Winston Blackmore, the Bishop of Bountiful in Canada, and Brandon seems to respect Winston, but not like him. I am so used to reading books by female FLDS authors that it was great to get a man's perspective. This scene where all the boys from the woodmill feel so hopeless about their situation, being in pretty much slavery to the church, they perform a mock wedding to their woodcutting machine. Ray was very touching and filled with black humour at their situation. Brandon's life in his early teens is so full of tragic deaths throughout the 2000s, it's horrible. And the death of his sister Susie was particularly hard reading. I don't know how he got through it. Susie's funeral really highlighted the rift forming between the Blackmores and the Jeffs. We have America versus Canada, and of course that comes into hyper-focus later in the book. Brandon talks in detail about his jobs and how he was taken advantage of when he was young by older men who paid him very low wages and promised him houses and trucks, but never delivered on these promises despite how much work he did. This really reminded me of Rebecca Kimball's book, Born in Polygamy, where she describes this happening to her brothers in the FLDS, the AUB, and the Kingston clan. I will admit, Brandon goes on a little bit too much for my liking about logging. It gets a little bit dull, but there are good bits when he talks about his work being on dangerous job sites, accidents, fires, terrible weather, and it really does bring home to you how badly young men are treated within these polygamist communities. Brandon doesn't go into much detail about his first marriage, apart from saying that he and his wife Mary were very awkward together at the start, but they found happiness, and he adored having children, even if he knew absolutely nothing about sex at the beginning. He is very respectful of his first marriage and his wife Mary, and I admire that about him. When he does get angry in the books, it seems as if it was provoked, even if he does seem to grab guns at every opportunity. I live in the UK and that is not something we do here. And he does only seem to grab guns when he feels his family is threatened. There is definitely a macho element to this book. Despite the macho element, I find myself liking Brandon. His view of the United Order is so pragmatic. I can see myself thinking along the same lines, especially about people who don't work and contribute to the society. When he tells the story about his bishop getting punched in the face by a teenager who was defending his sister's honour, I laughed out loud. That was a great scene. When Mary leaves Brandon, I really felt his frustration at not being able to see his children. His emotions jump off the page, and he seems like a really good dad. This is definitely the saddest part of the story. When Brandon moves to Utah because of one of Mary's lies and then fails to get into any police program because of his FLDS background, then gets scammed out of money and dumped numerous times, I really wanted him to get out of his rough spot. It sounded very hard. I realize I haven't covered the precise moment where Brandon leaves the FLDS community, and that is because it happens gradually over time and is linked in with his divorce to Mary. So there's no exact moment as there is in other FLDS books where he leaves the church, escapes, climbs over a wall. In this book, it is a gradual process. When Brandon meets Rachel Jeffs, things settle down to some extent, but he feels a lot of pressure to provide for her children, and his own. He is definitely hardwired to provide, and they definitely struggled. Rachel's book deal, her TV appearances, and being on Escaping Polygamy definitely helped them out financially during this period of their life. While they are struggling financially and Rachel's book deal is getting off the floor, Brandon is getting rejected from many different police academies and struggling to find a program that he can do and then be employed in afterwards. His last name and FLDS affiliations are holding him back, but he does finally get into a program, and I was very happy for him when he did. The only bit of this book I really didn't like was when Brandon shot his dog. I understand the dog was aggressive, but I'm sure he could have found a better solution than killing his dog on Christmas Day. It seemed very macho, very unnecessary to put in the book, and it really highlighted to me the difference between Europe and America. The book ends on a high, with Brandon finally becoming a police officer, which was his lifelong dream for his career, and all his kids coming to live with him. He also marries Rachel, and everything goes happily ever after into the sunset. Or not. I was very sad to know that Rachel and Brandon had split up since this book came out, so it's not happily ever after all, it seems. I give this book a solid 6 out of 10. My only real problem with this book was there was too much talk about logging for the reader, and maybe if you were not familiar with FLDS customs, this would be a difficult read, as he isn't very descriptive and doesn't go into very much doctrine. Brandon Blackmore's story is very interesting, and he seems like a genuinely great guy and an amazing father. But if you were not already familiar with the FLDS, you might get a bit lost in the story. So this book should probably be read alongside books like Breaking Free by Rachel Jeffs or The Witness were read by Rebecca Musser. I have reviews of both these books already on my channel. I also have a playlist of reviews from people who have left polygamous cults, so be sure to check those out and give this video a like because it really helps out my channel so I can make more videos like this. And leave a comment. Have you read this book? Have you read any of the other FLDS escape books that are out there? Remember to subscribe because whenever I get a chance to read an FLDS autobiography, I always take it. Until next time, don't keep sweet. Bye!